So how do you balance the chaos of owning a company and the discipline of going back to sales? Like, I am the best salesman at campusing, but I'm an awful salesperson, right? Like, same with Bruce. How are you able to be like, yeah, how are you able to balance that? Because I feel like that always goes on the back burner.
I have my entire day is structured out. So I come to my shop Monday through Thursday. Our shop does 4/10s. So on Fridays, I work from home. I come to my shop every single day, and just being at my desk kind of puts me in that mental structure of whatever my task load is for the day. When I was in retail, we had sales goals by the hour, right? And so I did the same thing with the shop whenever I built out how much money I needed to bring in every single day. Beyond that, I literally, like, when I come in first thing in the morning between 7 and 8 a.m., I order apparel, for example. And I do that because there's no one else in the shop between that time to interrupt me while I'm placing those orders. So as we're going into this year, in order for us to grow, we have to take on an outside sales staff. It's just one of those things. I'm maxed out and I can't deal with any more clients on top of what I'm already doing. And I know that. And I'd rather us start to grow.
Do you have someone that does inside sales that's just an order taker or anything? It's just you.
It is literally me.
Wow.
Yep.
So a repeat customer that just says, hey, I need 100 shirts. You're entering that into Printavo. I don't know if you use Printavo. You're entering that into whatever.
I do.
It's
yep.
It's okay.
I do. I enter everything.
Have you ever thought of hiring like an order taker just to like put this order in, put this order in, put this order in so that you can go more high level?
I have. And so our step one is to hire some outside salespeople. And then once we get those people in place, the next step will be bringing someone in to start alleviating me from that role.
It's a very hard, like, what are you doing to try to hire that outside sales role? Are you, like, it's one of the hardest things I've just heard. I always get the texts of struggling with outside sales, struggling with outside sales, struggling with outside sales.
Yeah.
What are you doing to fill that role, like to make sure it's worthwhile?
So we already knew back in November that we kind of made our final decision that this is the path that we wanted to take. We've been doing interviews since then. I think I had like 4 second interviews last week, and 2 of those people will be getting brought on.
That's awesome. So you're like pot committed.
Yeah. I'm ready to I don't want to say I'm ready to move on from this position, but I'm ready to focus more on our actual business. Being able to come off of production last year and focus on some of the actual like business sides of the business, just it kind of hit my brain in a different way of like, okay, this is really important. If we want to grow, if we want to get past the point that we're at right now, like we've got to start focusing on some other sides of the business.
Were there any good interview questions you asked for that salesperson? That
I always ask people what their favorite animal is.
What do you learn from that?
So it's something I used to do when I was in retail. We would always do like these big group interviews. And I always did it as an icebreaker because I felt like, but you ask somebody that, then they tell you what their favorite animal is. Sometimes you get some really good ones. Or I might ask why it's their favorite animal, and it loosens them up a little bit. It puts them in a place where they're like ready to talk to you versus being super nervous about an interview.
That makes sense. Is there another good one that you ask?
No, because I think other things typically come up naturally after what's your favorite animal? I'm also an animal lover.
So. Steven, do you have any good interview questions that are like when you ask it, you're like, okay, I have a pretty clear direction on this person?
I'm basically I'll ask, if I were to call your former employer or your best friend or your family member, what would they tell you need to work on so that I don't have to find out about it on the first day? And so, if they say and then I'll brief it with, you can't say you're a perfectionist, because that's bullshit. Cause I really want to know. And then I'll ask them questions like, what drives you nuts and what irritates you? What gets you flustered? And then, I'll also ask some like committal questions, because I think sometimes when we're hiring our first or second salespeople or we're hiring early, we sometimes feel desperate. or we oversell or overtalk. And so, I was taught once, if you're a recruiter, you're doing one of the highest forms of sales. You need to turn it on them to make them want it every part of the interview process. And so I'll ask questions like, we've built a really, really tight knit group here that, focuses on culture and values each other and develops one another. We don't have a lot of turnover. If I were to give you a role here, what would make you stay for a long time? And I just want to know what their commitment level looks like, and get them to kind of vocalize it and be like, no, that's something I want to be a part of. I'm here to stay. Those kind of things. The other thing that we've done when we're hiring is we've shortened the interview cycle. I say that when someone starts the interview process, we need to have a decision on them in less than 2 weeks. Because the longer it goes, the more it wanders off track and you might lose them. Yeah. And probably the last thing is I stay as the owner pretty guarded, where, I won't kind of let my guard down because I need them to know like how serious this is and how seriously I'm going to take it for them. And then I let them kind of do some reverse interviews with some other employees so that they can learn more about me and what it's like to work here. But we've definitely had our ups and downs with hiring or a bad hiring process. It's got to be calculated though. So I was just talking to someone, Tyler, the other day about this. What do you got, Bruce? What questions you ask?
Nikki, what do we?
Yeah, I just want to know because you're always recruiting.
We try to focus. I agree on the time frame. We have definitely lost good candidates if we drag it too long. And if a good candidate is looking, they're going to get snapped up pretty quick because someone else also realizes that too. And so we have done more group interviews, and or try to just make the turnaround. Like if the phone screen goes good, it's like, hey, look, are you free? Tomorrow or the next day. And then the final interviews with a group of the final people that I want in there, so that we all do it at the same time. And then that way they, and it's not just like managers, it could be like me, it could be another sales rep that would be on their team, sales manager. But, we used to have like a support rep in there, anybody really that just can listen to them and say, yeah, they're good. Or this is kind of weird when they said this or brought this up. Because I also find that as the owner, you get desperate, especially as you interview longer, and you just bum rush candidates in. And you're just like, I think they're good. They're good, right? You're like leading them in. But the rest of the team doesn't have that desperation that you're feeling. And so they are a really good second check. I always do the secondary interview with a third party. So we use this lady, Wendy, BHRS Partners. And she's really good because for whatever reason, people just tell a third party something different, or more in depth. They feel more comfortable. Maybe I need to ask the animal question. And then the project. So, like pitch me whatever you're selling before, like, and I'll kind of be not a jerk, but like, I know the pushbacks that people will give us. So I will sort of use those same pushbacks on them. Maybe leave the call like, hey, I'm sorry, I gotta bounce. Like, and see what they do. Do they get your phone number? Do they get your name? Do they try to schedule a next step with you? Do they say that they're going to send you a follow-up? Right. Things like that, those little tidbits that show, okay, they're trying to perfect their sales craft versus they're just trying to fill a role. Cause I think also sales roles are one where anybody and everybody, if they don't have a role right now or job, was going to try it and see if they could just do it just to fill it. And that's unfortunate for an owner that may get trapped.
So far, everyone that I've interviewed has been a referral to me from someone else. So I've been handed like almost pre-qualified people for those roles, which is I typically, even in the past, when we've hired for production, I've never posted that we were hiring except for one time. And I got really lucky with the person that we got off of that. But outside of that, for production, we do the interview process. I just kind of sit there. I like to let them talk for 80% of it. I'll just completely get quiet and let them go. And if they get quiet, I'll fill that void with a question somewhere. But 9 times out of 10, if you do the awkward silence, they just keep talking.
Have you ever had an interview where they just go for like 10 minutes and you're like,
Yes.
And I'm just like, this person they're still on their intro. All right. Sorry, Nikki, go ahead. You were talking.
No, you're
It just
fine.
popped up.
No, you just reminded me of this kid that I interviewed in retail that spent 10 minutes telling me how he got arrested for something.
All right.
But no,
Appreciate the time.
I know, right? No, he actually was you know what? We hired him. He was a great employee, actually. But no, I'm kind of like, I like to fill people out. You know, I like to listen to them talk. Like, not everybody's a bad person because they've made bad choices in life. But so anyways, we interview for production, then we'll bring them in for a working interview, and we'll just kind of take them downstairs and spend an entire 8-hour day letting them help us. And I'm looking for, are they jumping in willingly to help? Are they asking questions? Are they trying to learn about this process? The last person that we did it with, he came from another shop, but he came from a shop that didn't do water-based printing. So he and I were on the press together, and I think Kyle popped over and started asking, like, printing questions. He's like, I know you come from a plastisol shop. How do you feel about water-based printing? And the kid lit up, and all of a sudden he had questions for us. He wanted to know what he could learn from us and how he could grow from us. And so those are the people that I want inside of my business. I'm okay with hiring people that you may not be around forever. Maybe they tell you like, hey, I'm only going to be here for 5 years, and then I want to grow and be at another point in life in that 5 years. I'm okay with that. It doesn't bother me that someone wants to grow themselves, whether they stay in this industry or move outside of this industry. But when people are here, I want them to at least be excited about the job.